Yeah, I feel really good. I'm super happy with what I'm doing. Like life's like good, honestly, super blessed, fantastic, super happy. Yeah.
LEX VELDHUIS in Paris. Lex, how are you?
Good. Good. It's nice to be here. I like Paris a lot. It's close by home, so it's a good location for me.
How long would it take for you to drive here?
3.5 hours.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, that's crazy because there's places in the Netherlands that are further away than this for me. So it's actually, it's, put on a podcast and you're there.
What is your favorite European country outside your own?
I think I'm gonna have to say, that's a hard one actually, because I would say Spain, but I was like, I like France a lot too. And then I thought, well, Italy was really nice. I guess I like Europe in general, but I would definitely say like the Mediterranean area I really love, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun when you talk to American players. You've been there so many years in Vegas and meeting Americans, asking about Europe. How would you sell Europe to the Americans? Why would they go there?
Well, actually, one of the main things is like everything is so close by. It's like the fact that this took me 3.5 hours to drive, but almost any city to any city is 2 or 3 hours flight. So like when you live in America, you hear all these exotic names. You hear Paris and Barcelona and Sevilla and Milan and stuff, and then everything is a 2-hour flight away. Even from like New York to LA is 6.5 hours. There's like almost nowhere where you have to fly that far in Europe. So. You can see everything in no time. So that's
even you can rent a car and drive around to spectacular places.
Yeah.
You have like a week, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, we talked many times, but going back to the roots a bit, how old were you when you played poker first time?
19, I think. Yeah, it's funny because I came into poker almost through a friend of mine said I found a video game that you can make money with. So I looked at it as a video game. It's like an online strategy game. So that's how I got into it. It's just to do as like a summer job or supporting job for when I was in school. Yeah.
There were quite a few guys coming from the esports world and playing video games. Were you a gamer too?
Yeah, big time. So one of the people that I got into poker was through Elke, pretty much. So I knew Elke before poker through a game called StarCraft. And that's what also my friend Victor Gozens, who created Team Liquid, which is a huge esports organization, and he told me like, hey, you should try this. Go play some play money tables, and then they sent me my first $10 to play with. Yeah,
it's fun how some of those guys. I know Elke is involved. Luca Pagano, you have Adrian Catchella working with Flash and so on. Are you still interested in the esports? Are you watching it?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I'm part owner. It sounds a bit. I've invested in Team Liquid. I'm also in Team Liquid because of StarCraft from the past. So I've been involved with them, and I play with the players all the time. And I do tons of stuff. There's also like tons of like Dota pros that come into my Twitch stream and etc. So it's there's always a big affinity and affiliation still there.
It's funny how when the poker came through and people were outside poker couldn't understand how big poker was inside poker, and it's almost the same in esports, right? Mm-hmm. So those are interested in esports. It's huge. Is it still growing? Is it going to continue to grow, the esports thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's becoming more and more mainstream. I mean, if I say now, if I say, what do you do? I was like, I pretty much like numb it down to like a YouTuber usually. Like the poker thing is, I've said that, but like most of the stuff that I actually do is like make poker content on YouTube. So I'm like, okay, so I'm a YouTuber, and I'm like, what do you do? I make poker content. And they're like, oh, cool. Now they're like, wow, that's very cool. And before it'd be like a streamer, and it'd be like, what is a stream? And it's kind of funny because you notice that the same thing with poker as well, where at the beginning you're like, I play poker for a living. What? You can do it for a living? And now you hear much more time casuals say like, oh, that's very cool. I know someone that does it as well. So it has like a same sort of progression.
Yeah, you're almost like a pioneer in that. Did you feel like many times playing poker and creating content and all that you were finding your way yourself, or did you look to someone who did it and tried to do the same?
That's a good question, because I always feel like I felt so much affinity with esports, right? I've created my Twitch channel in 2007 when it was just in TV. So like way before I started streaming. So you can tell that I have like a really big interest in the streaming world, esports world. So to me, it was almost as if like my two favorite things in the world came together. So it felt like a very natural step. But one of the things actually that I first thought when streamers were getting big in poker and stuff, I just thought like I felt like I would wanted to do it a different way. And so at first I thought that's not the way people like to watch streams. And then I saw Tonka streaming was a little bit more rough around the edges, and he started doing well. And I was like, I'm just going to do it too, and I'm just going to do it my way. And I would stream during the EU daytime, and everybody told me like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. There's no viewers there. So I kind of felt like I sort of like carved out my own space. And I definitely have my own style. Like I'm a little bit more erratic than most people. You know, I have the highs and the lows, and I really let that like come out and stuff. So I've always been very clear about pursuing my own way of making content. And now that I'm making content on YouTube, I kind of feel that same way again. Like I want to do stuff that's not there. I want to do stuff that's like so closely affiliated to my personality, and my own way on the creative process, my own view on the creative process.
What is it, do you think, in your personality and the way you act in front of the camera? Because you're not an act, you're yourself.
Yeah.
What is it in your style that appeals to people, you think?
Well, I think that's ultimately people see that. I think that because when I started doing it, it's not so much like, it was a very conscious choice, because I feel sometimes when you, like let's say a streamer would bust a really big tournament, and you can see the pain in their face, right? And it's a moment that's very real. Like that's why you're a fly on the wall, right? You see the highs, you see the victory, but you also see the disappointment. And that's why, one of the shots, if somebody has like a world title shot in boxing and they get knocked down and they just sit there, it's like that moment that you almost like get to experience through somebody. And then you could see sort of the barrier on their face, and it'd be like, oh, it's okay. Oh man, I can't wait to play again tomorrow. And I was just looking, I was like, no, you don't. You hate the game right now. And I felt like it's important to show people that sometimes you just can't stand the game, and then sometimes you really want to play the game, and it triggers like competitiveness in you and stuff, right? It's like the highs and the lows that are and how well you deal with the lows, and you can do that while still being disappointed. And I just, looking at that, those are the moments where I just instantly like close the stream, because I was like, that's where it stops, right? That's where the realness stops. And so for that reason, I feel like I'm my own audience. If I like watching something, that's probably the type of content that suits me as well, or the way to do it, if it's still closely related to your personality. So that's an important reason for me to just be yourself. Plus, I just think it's exhausting to not be yourself. So if you look at like what's the best thing to do next week, it's like, okay, let's put on a super polished product. Let's really try to estimate what works well, what people really want to see. But what works the best for me in like 5 years is be myself, because I'm not going to be acting for 4 years straight, right? It's exhausting. At a certain point, you meet people at live events, you have to uphold this image that's not really true to your personality. It's like sometimes you'll see a streamer and they consciously don't curse, and they say like, oh, shucks, and stuff like that. And you see them in real life and it's like, fuck this, fuck that. And it's like, wow, it's so different, and it must be a disconnect for people too. And then other people come along and they cut it out again. And that it's just, then you're micromanaging your whole personality and wherever you are. And there's already so many eyeballs on you, and there's so much pressure from people to see what you're doing, and, scrutiny, and you're on a camera the whole time. So like, at least let me be myself, because then I can just like let it flow naturally, and it's less exhausting that way.
Is it sometimes that when you watch your material, because you've been live streaming so much, but have you recorded things that you have been editing out stuff, or do you always keep it as it is?
I always keep it as it is, yeah.
Good. I mean, it's a big thing in life. You have 2 kids now, they're both young.
Yeah.
And everyone who has kids knows it's a pretty big change in life. Have you been able to stay the same, the character Lex who plays poker, throughout the way of your new kids? Yeah,
it's kind of funny, because like a lot of time, obviously for me, emotionally, everything got a lot deeper, changed, like it really enriched my life. But I'll get a question oftentimes like, hey, so now that you have kids, like, don't you feel like oh, now I want to make the best future. I want to do this, and I'm going to work hard at that because, you're building this future. And I'm just thinking, no, because I already sort of like operated. Like, I think to be successful in poker or in content creation, you have to operate on real intrinsic motivation, right? If you want to do it for 7 years straight, put all the work in, all the time in, you have to really find why you want to do it and what drives you to do that. So I already had that perspective, right? It's not like I was just like, I'm working 15 hours a week, don't really know what to do. And now I have kids, I'm like, oh, now I want to do this, or now I should work for that. I was already doing that, you know what I mean? So in terms of like work perspective, I don't think it's changed much. I also I feel like within poker I already matured quite a bit. So I wasn't doing any dumb stuff anymore in terms of bankroll or games I shouldn't be playing, that sort of thing. Like, I've learned through time, and very organized, very professional in that sense. So like poker content wise, it didn't change much. What I will say is that the decision to do more YouTube and make more YouTube videos is definitely also because of the kids, because then I'll have it's easier to manage my time and say these 4 hours I'm going to be recording, that's where that video is. And when I stream, it's okay, it's going to be 8 hours plus whatever deep run is happening, right? So, and then all of a sudden it's a lot harder to manage with kids and time there and stuff, but I want to be super present. So the decision to go to YouTube is compiled out of, to also to YouTube, I should say. It's like a pie that's divided over multiple areas, but one of those areas is definitely time with the kids.
It's fun. No, I mean, to become a successful poker player, you need a pretty good brain. We don't have to go into how good a brain you have, but if you would use your experience and your skills, do you think you are interested in adapting that to another area outside gaming? Have you thought about that, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, the thing is I've been in poker for so long now, it's been 18 years. So I truly feel of course, your teens, you develop a lot, but it's then it's more your body's changing and you're finding your spot there, and you a lot of stuff like confidence. But I feel your true development interest years is from 20 and on. So every cycle almost where you get out in the world and you get piqued, your interest gets piqued by different things. I was playing poker, right? And I knew I was gonna, every time I went through a cycle, I was oh, I still want to play poker. Oh, cool, I'm gonna stream. So I don't really know what I would want to do else, because this is what I've been doing. Plus, I feel when you start thinking about oh, that sounds fun. Oh, that could be cool. That's the moment where your intention starts to drift away. But I'm still so passionate about playing poker that I don't really need to. So it's almost a waste of time to think about it, And I think that if you want to make big choices, if you want to make a big change of direction, figure out what you want to do with your life, the best thing to do is do that from a place or a moment where you just don't have anything going on. Because then you're open to stuff. You don't have deadlines of things. You don't have to work on stuff that suck out some energy or creativity or something, So just take a step back and look around what's happening. And let's say if in 2 years, and I'm not saying that because I don't really see the end, I don't really feel I have an expiration date right now for poker and content, but let's say hypothetically in 2 years I'm okay, I'm just done with this, then the first thing I would do is just take a step back and just see what's out there for 2-3 months, just take it easy. But right now, if you ask me what I'm doing in 5 years, it's making content and playing poker, easy.
And being a part of PokerStars and so on, it's suited you well, it seems. Has it been good to be a part of that team?
Yeah, and it's especially since the content, before I was a signed-on pro, and it's, I think sort of my story starting at 1-2 cents on PokerStars and getting up to the high-stakes cash games is a good one when you're a pro. And I think that's definitely sort of been my value in that sense. I'm just a grinder who got up to the ranks and sort of made it in that way. But now that content creation came around, there's just, when I talk to people, the team at PokerStars that does Twitch, YouTube, and ambassadors, I can mention a random streamer that did something cool a week ago, and the people will know who I'm talking about. It's that's amazing, and I feel that's why it's the best spot for me, because everybody's so Twitch, YouTube content savvy, where they're just hey, you'll get a tip or an idea for a new video from somebody that you're working with, instead of constantly explaining, defending what you're doing, trying to prove your value, what you're doing. This is more of it's a symbiosis almost. It's okay, yeah, we're gonna work together, we're signed on together, and we're gonna do this. And I'm gonna bring this into the equation. You're gonna bring that, and we're gonna make something awesome. And that's what it's. you know, that's why it's the best place to be for me. So it's yeah, it's great.
Yeah, we talked about creating some more interviews perhaps in the near future, talking from home and so on. And it's always nice to go deep into things. It seems like you're interested as well to talk about things outside poker and how life is and so on. So we'll have a talk soon again, Lex. And, from home.
Thank you. Can't wait.
You look to be in good shape. You happy, Ben?
Yeah, I'm happy. Also, yeah, like I don't know, just yeah. So and that actually that's a good one, because if you look at like what my life perspective changed, like I do value time now more. So you know, I lost like 8 kilos. I just like I'm working out more, just trying to, you know, sort of like looking at the long game in that sense. You know, where you're just not like living for yourself, but also for the time with your kids and stuff. So yeah, I feel really good. I'm super happy with what I'm doing. Like life's like couldn't honestly, super blessed, fantastic, super happy. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Good to see you, and we'll talk soon again.
Yeah, thank you, Rickard. Thank you.